So before we start, thank you so much to Radio Centre for hosting us today. We're going to talk for like 10 minutes and then we're going to throw to the audience for some questions. So if you have any, please think of them whilst we're talking. I am Elz, I am a presenter and I also do YouTube as well. And Rebecca here is technically my boss on KISS. Hello.
Like, not technically, actually her boss, just to clarify that. Yeah, I'm the content director of, I'm going to move closer to you with this awkward one microphone thing. Yeah, I'm the content director of the KISS network and I started a week before the pandemic. So it's been a really fun tenure over the past 18 months.
So I didn't know what Generation K was until yesterday, but would you explain to the audience who may also not know what Generation K is?
Yeah, so, I'll hold it, because otherwise you're vox popping me for 10 minutes. So, Generation K is the way that we describe our very, very broad audience at KISS. And I think lots of stations like KISS are called youth brands and very sort of general terms like that. But we call our audience Gen K because it is a very broad, different life stage, encompassing audience from 15 to 35. So broadly speaking, millennials and Gen Z. But everybody united with that mindset of energy, relevancy, high turnover of content, and let's face it, a massive slew of content in a phone-first life. That's basically who Gen K are.
You said you were going to use that phrase, phone first. So as Gen K then, how do they receive radio? Are they still listening to radio? How is the reception of radio changing?
A really pertinent question, actually. And I've worked in sort of young brand radio and content my whole life. I spent over 10 years at the BBC at Radio 1 before, so I've always lived in this space of making sure that the brand that I work for evolves to be relevant and to make sure that it's distributed in the right ways for kind of younger audiences. During the pandemic, consumption has obviously massively changed. We've noticed that the digital distractions for younger audiences at home have really kind of kicked in even more than they might have done pre-pandemic. By the same token, we know that online listening, so via smartphone or tablet or smart speaker, has gone through the roof. So now we know that about 30% of under 35s are listening to radio via smartphone or tablet. That goes up much higher to the younger end of that under 35 audience, about 35% for under 25s. And our smart speaker uptake went up by 75% during the pandemic, most notably around some event radio moments that we put together. So things like this thing that we called KISS Fest that we did last Easter and this Easter, where we got 170 DJs together to try and create that shared moment that our younger audiences were really, really missing when raves and festivals and stuff kind of disappeared. So look, there's absolutely no doubt that younger audiences are always going to need most of our attention as a radio industry and at KISS, and we've got to be agile in, of course, the cliche, here it comes, not just reaching them via the radio, but reaching them via social media, and that means all platforms. And yeah, I'm going to say phone first again, that's our approach. Things like the KISS Haunted House Party virtual event that we did a couple of weeks ago, where we had a bunch of performances that we filmed and in sort of music video quality and put in our app, made downloads increase by 30%. That's 30% more people downloading the KISS Cube app in that 1 week because we were providing really good content at that time. So, there's lots to think about as an industry, but yeah, things have massively changed during the pandemic as well.
Well, you basically stole my next question because it was, how do you plan content for KISS? So I'm going to flip it. I'm going to ask you if there's any recommendations you would give to people and brands that may be watching in the room or online about how they can adapt their content for this new sort of digital Gen K audience.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not an oracle, and I'm learning every day and every sort of bit of data and having conversations with people like you who connect with younger audiences all the time so natively. But I would say authenticity, it's a buzzword that a lot of people have been overusing, I would say, throughout the pandemic. I think it's a really, really important one. We've had our presenters connecting with audiences and opening up and sharing their lives a lot more over the past sort of 18 months, and that's something that we're going to keep doing. So Jordan and Perry, our breakfast show hosts who you just saw, don't just come on and tell you that the next tune's going to be sick and then play it. They tell you what it means to them. They'll tell you a story about their family. They'll tell you something that went wrong the other week in a diversity rehearsal, and we share the ups and the downs of how it felt for them to receive, record number of Ofcom complaints after their Britain's Got Talent performance. We share everything, and so authenticity is really, really important, and something that in commercial radio, I really feel like we need to keep digging deep and make sure that we get a reputation for authenticity. And shared moments are really important. So we know that younger audiences, massive sweeping statement alert, but I'm going to go with it anyway, are really, bombarded by a lot of brands, a lot of platforms, a lot of different content. It's a minefield out there, and content, that's put out into the ether the supply far outstrips the demand. So creating meaningful sort of, don't mean earnest, but fun as well as serious kind of shared moments are really important. So not just live events, which we're doing more and more of now and planning for next year, but those event radio shared moments where there's a shared conversation. We gather everybody together on the network and our audience together to kind of listen to the same thing or watch the same thing. This is a tried and tested formula for TV and other kind of national events, and that's been really, really important, I think. So yeah, I would say those are sort of some of the top things, but also just being really, really sort of bold on the strategy of right content, right platform, right time. So our social media does not just reflect everything that we do on the radio. We have a lot of digital first content. We're increasing our ambition in this area as well. And obviously having people like Elz as part of the KISS network, and Elz presents a show on KISS Fresh, our new music station, plug. Really important that we have just as much content on social media that works for that platform, as well as then really good conversation that works for the radio, not just trying to mirror exactly the same content on all platforms. That is definitely not the key. So I'm sure you'd probably agree.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to add on to what you said, because I've just joined KISS during lockdown. I think it's been since June, so I'm still relatively new to the KISS family. But before that, I've built my audience on YouTube, and my audience is 16 to sort of 34. I'd say more on the younger end of that, because my content is generally video games. And there is a massive, massive market at the moment for young people watching content online, which is either video games or just people's lives. They just love watching a vlog, like your everyday life. And I think the key point of that is being relatable. I'm an everyday person, a normal person, just like the viewer. And there's sort of a shift that I've seen, being someone that grew up on more traditional format of radio, like Chris Moyle's breakfast show, things like that, to this new format, which is, as you mentioned, Jordan and Perry talking about how their day's been and reacting to Ofcom complaints. And it's something I try and bring into my show, is just being personable and being relatable, talking about things like biscuits. Like, I love biscuits in my tea. What's your favorite biscuit? People can relate to that because it's something everyone eats biscuits, like most of us do. So I think it's amazing to see how radio is adapting to this new sort of era of new generation that are on digital more and doing the digital content first, which I think is great. It's a great drive having, you mentioned the KISS Haunted House Party, you putting the content online first, and it's just one click away. Go to the app and download it, and that's a great way to get more people listening to the radio station.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think just sort of one thing I wanted to ask you, and I sort of know the answer to this, but I think it'd be really good for people to hear it in this room and at home, is you are a successful gaming YouTuber and content maker and creator. And often, in the press, there are stories about the appeal of radio to people like you and what's in it for you, because surely it's a dying platform for under 25s. So I don't agree with that. I would really, really like to hear what motivated you to want to be part of KISS and do a radio show and everything that comes with it when you're so successful already with young audiences.
I think the main thing for me is I love music, and with YouTube you can't play music, you get copyrighted. You can play 10 seconds of it and you're going to get copyrighted straight away. And I've really struggled to get my love for music over on YouTube. Predominantly gaming, and I talk about sport a lot on my YouTube, but music is a massive passion of mine, and it was something that I wasn't able to articulate on my YouTube. So for me, going to radio was a no-brainer. And being a presenter as well, it does provide more structure. As I mentioned, you can be personable and relatable, but what I love about having radio is you get that sort of structure of, I'm going to have 5 minutes to talk about what I wanted to talk about, why I love this song, and then I'm going to play a song for you. And also just having guests on the show is incredible. Having different music guests, having peers that are in entertainment, getting to know people around the station is just an amazing experience for me. And I think it's great to get people like myself or Big Zoo, for example, who is also on Kiss Fresh. So I do the Saturday show on from 4 till 7, and Big Zoo does the Sunday show. Having people like us come on to Kiss Fresh really drives an audience, I believe, because obviously our audience is the target audience, and if we're on the radio, they might follow as well. So.
And, you know, not just any old YouTube famous people signings. You know, it's really important then when sort of thinking about that right combination of somebody who's got online potency, also has what Elz and Big Zoo and Jordan and Perry and people like that have, which is a love of music, an ability to help us form habits. This is the nuance of radio, isn't it? It's an unusual platform, and this is why we love it. It's about forming habits. So we need people that can tell those stories and be consistent as well, not just sort of people that are really good online being plonked on air. We all can agree that probably doesn't work.
We do have questions here. I haven't got my glasses on, so I'm going to have to lean in. But someone has asked, do you find young audiences naturally gravitate to the station, or do you think you need to fight to get them?
It's always a fight. And I think anybody that doesn't have that sensibility in them as a content director or a presenter is crazy. We know that younger audiences are not going to grow into radio. We know this from data. It's not like, oh, they'll get to 25, they'll come to us. Absolutely not. There's a cacophony of content out there. We have to fight for them. We have to stand for something. That's why it's really important in commercial radio that we all evolve from not just people that play the hits and talk in between them, but have presenters that connect, event radio moments that mean something, social action campaigns that we have at KISS, and we're going to do a lot more of next year that really connect. All these things are really important. It's definitely a fight, a really healthy one.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Elle. Sorry. Thank you,
It's
Elle.
all right.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Everybody, please, put your hands together. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Now, in a few minutes' time, we'll be hearing new research which highlights the power of a consistent audio identity, something that Radio Centre looked to achieve when they kicked off the process of creating